Hello folks, welcome to Wednesday afternoon. Not a time when I usually stream, but I had more games in the queue than we've had for a few weeks, so I thought I'd put an extra stream on this week. We're checking out a couple of deck builders. Two of them have come from the Patreon community. Thank you to the devs of Carnholt, which we've seen before, and Race to Ruler, which I think we tried to see before and then I couldn't get into it for whatever reason, for basically sponsoring this stream. And we're also going to be checking out Mixed Martial Cards, which was a game submitted from the public form over on indiegameclinic.com. And for anyone who's new to the channel, that's what I do now. I sort of look at the supporters' games and then I try and pair them up with games sent in by the public. So if you sent in a game over on the website on indiegameclinic.com, the waiting list for that form is much longer, but that's because, you know, the patrons, the people that allow me to do this full time, are the people who support the channel. So I kind of pick their games first and then I match up games with them. So we're going to check out Mixed Martial Cards first, then we're going to check out Race to Ruler, and then Carnholt last, because I've played Carnholt before on a stream and I was very impressed with it. It's made by a person who is a Magic the Gathering artist, and it naturally shows in the game. But yeah, we've got them all queued up. This is what Carnholt looks like. It has a lot of kind of standard deck building mechanics, and then you're kind of fighting on a grid with your units. Race to Ruler looks a bit Hearthstone-y. Haven't had a chance to play this before. All quite polished and far along. And just to reiterate what I said in our Discord earlier, if you are in our Discord because you support the channel, do feel free to submit games that are a bit earlier on. I know sometimes people feel a bit anxious about submitting something that's a grey box. And to be honest, the big long waiting list for the public games, if someone sends a grey box into that, I often won't get a chance to look at it unless we have like a special kind of prototype themed stream. But if you are a supporter, you can submit whatever you want as long as it's not deeply offensive. So please do send stuff in when it's earlier along. If it's a ropey grey box prototype and you don't know what you're doing with it, that's good, because it means we can put 4 of those together in a stream and have a kind of themed stream around that. But today, the stream theme is deck builders. I'm going to just have a quick look at the store page for Mixed Martial Cards before we get going. It's going to be interesting to see how much of this is like geared towards trying to simulate the theme of MMA versus be a good deck builder. And those things might be in conflict to some degree. We'll see. One thing I am seeing that always makes me a little bit worried when I first engage with one of these games is like every card in the hand is a different thing. And not necessarily the situation you want in a card game. The benefit of cards is you can have duplicates of things, and then the game can be more about like, I've got 2 of these, 3 of these, and 2 of these. You know, how do I spend those resources? I think people can get very bogged down in overcomplicating things and having loads and loads of variety. And the problem is that can then hamstring the deck building aspect of the game, because one of the reasons why you keep the starting deck simple is so that it's boring and then you feel excited to upgrade it. Whereas if the starting deck is a bunch of different cards and everyone's different, you've already got an interesting starting deck. So the kind of impulse to try and upgrade it is not as strong. Right, let's play. Let's see what this is all about. You know what this is giving me as well is this is a web dev ass looking interface. And I'm not going to be doing any blade running on this particular stream, but I have noticed, and again, this isn't about accusing people so much, it's an observation about aesthetics. But I have noticed whenever I've looked at games that seem to be very kind of AI forward and have a lot of AI driven processes in their development, they always seem to end up in this kind of end style of a game that looks like it's running in a web browser in terms of how all the interface and stuff. I don't know if that's the case with this game, but this kind of lots of emojis and round corner boxes and stuff, I don't know, it's kind of lacking a bit of pizzazz. And the context I've mainly seen it in is when I've been going through Steam deliberately looking at slot games. Okay, story-driven coaching. No, let's go for the 2-minute tutorial video. I mean, I don't want a video either. I want a playable tutorial. I don't want to watch a video, and I don't really want to do story coaching either. But so I hear you want to be a fighter. Best way to learn is experience. Let's start with you defending my attacks. Okay. Check your opponent's attack card before choosing your response. Play or defend a counter card blindly before seeing others' account. Costs 1 energy less. That already feels like a neat trade-off. Right, we can spend less of our energy resource to play cards without understanding what we're playing them against. That seems like a neat way of simulating some of the decisions that might be going on in this situation. Okay, so we're going to react. We're going to see what they're doing. Your hand automatically highlights the defense and counter cards that work against the incoming attack. 50% damage blocked from attacks to the head. It seems like the head is the most important piece of information there, but it's not coded into an icon or anything to do with highlighting this word or this word. Continue to resolution, okay. What's the brain? Head condition. Okay. Health points, head condition, and energy. These are some big resource bars. This is why people don't watch MMA unless they're really into it, because the guys have got such big health bars. Okay, we're going to predict now. Panic block. Punch to the head. I play a prediction. It costs 0 energy instead of 1. The difference between 0 energy and 1 when we've got a bar of 99, I guess because this might be because we're in a tutorial, but the best way to land a good hit is to first throw your opponent off rhythm with a feint. Watch your side. Okay. Take it with your face. Proceed to surprise phase. Yeah, there's a danger when you're Doc is looking like Bono. When you're a guy with a certain shaped face and glasses and hair of a certain length, you just sort of default to looking like Bono, unfortunately. If you fall for a feint, you don't have time to wait to see what attack is coming next. You will have to predict what is coming. Okay, it's your turn now. Attack me. I don't feel like I've done anything or really made any decisions in the tutorial so far. Stamina cost, attack type, if any. Okay, so this is where we've got the body part. We've got the body or head goes here to show us where we're attacking to. Press Alt while hovering to expand the extra rules. For each attack, you have a few options. Normal attack mode, high risk, high reward. Try to kick your opponent in order to land a stronger hit next turn. Normal behavior, do as the card says. Full power, deal double damage at expense of half. I mean, that's double. That's 200% damage for only 1.5. Oh, if countered, you take double damage and become stunned. Okay. Feels very gambly. There's lots of like trying to call what they're gonna do with no real information to base that on. And I really, really hope that the fights aren't going to be as long as these bars suggest in the tutorial. I don't know. That was a solid punch. However, I wouldn't recommend just attacking wildly because it will drain your stamina. Try to throw me off rhythm with a feint first. Play an attack card from your hand. Okay. Feint. Trick your opponent. Costs only 1 energy. If they defend or counter, they become off rhythm. So I'm playing an attack, but I'm using it as a feint. So we're not really doing the damage. We're just pretending to do that attack. Punch me in the head. Straightforward, obvious attacks rarely work, so remember to first throw your opponent off. In a fight, you and your opponent will try to damage the other while avoiding to take damage themselves. The one who is better positioned to attack has the initiative. Usually a fight follows a flow between offense and defense. Taking the initiative by defending is usually a good way to get your own offense going. This feels like it's so strongly built around trying to simulate MMA rather than to give the player a series of interesting decisions. I mean, I'm going to give it 20 minutes to sort of have an opportunity to warm on it. But there's a lot of potential problems here. Like, one of them is that the only kind of theming that sort of tells the story of what is happening is on the cards. And the cards are our verbs, right? There are things that we do as a player. There are tools. There's nothing situational to look at when we are picking which cards. It's just some bars. Like, which card are you going to use against the bars? So we can receive the initiative by blocking the attack, calling the opponent's feint, countering the attack, or opponent passes their initiative. How am I supposed to... There seem to be a lot of these mechanics that are based on, like, calling their feint. What is the information I'm supposed to use to be able to do that? Or is it just a 50% chance, and I guess? Okay, opponent has initiative. Choose your action. React or predict? I'm going to predict, which means I'm going to play a card blindly. And basically, now I'm taking a 50-50 gamble on whether they're going to attack me in the head or the body. Now, maybe there's some sort of information from the level of the sport that would tell me, well, if they attack this last, they're going to attack this next. But there's nothing in the actual video game to give me anything to base that guess off of. Continue to resolution, attack and defend. So you're going to punch me in the head. I'm going to block 50% of the damage to the head. It's only a 50% block, so even though I picked the right choice, I still take a bunch of damage. Feels quite punishing. Play an attack card from your hand. Okay, that's the only card I've got. We're going to do a normal attack. They do a panic block. I do a bit of damage, but it's partially blocked. Okay. To do a full power attack. I just don't understand what information I'm supposed to be basing any of these decisions on. Like, maybe there's some modeling in this game that is based on what would work in a real MMA match, but that's not here in the game. I mean, the thing is, I feel like anyone who has spent, I don't know, any amount of time studying digital card games and how they work, and things like Slay the Spire, will understand why it's become a norm in that genre for them to tell you the intentions of the other character. Because if they don't tell you the intentions of the other character, or give you some way of understanding the intentions of the other character, this game may as well just be sitting there rolling a dice and trying to get a 6. Like, I don't understand what kind of like situational awareness or like game knowledge is supposed to be tested with this, because so many of the checks that I'm given to do seem to be like 50% chances for it to go either way. Oh man, I don't want to do any more tutorial. Can I just play the game, please? That was such a long piece of tutorial to learn something that didn't really let me make many decisions. It was just explaining a lot of stuff, and then the quote-unquote decisions I got to make were all basically flipping a coin. I'm just gonna go and do something. 1 second. Give me a second. Very not invested in this. It feels very, very strongly geared around simulating something. Does not include grappling, which will be a significant part of the game in the full release. Balance update. It did a balance update. I'm seeing dice.
Often your opponent is well.
I'm just trying to get a bit more project context, because this feels like
Exchanges to
it feels like a lot of time has been spent on, like, look at that. A lot of time has been spent on the UI and the art and everything that you can see and interact with in this game, but I can't work out what part of it's a game from what I've seen so far. And the tutorial looks like it's going to be so long to get to the point. Like, this is a situation where you really needed to make the thing in Tabletop Simulator or just as a card game first, and then work out if it's interesting to play, because it feels like maybe certain types of people think it's interesting if they're very, very into MMA and they understand what all this maps onto. But as a video game in its own right, it's like... Cards with combo allow the attacker to keep the initiative even if the defender successfully blocks or dodges the attack. Press Alt while hovering over a card with mouse to see details. Hook to the body, left. That's got like a directional thing to it. I'm going to call the feint. No, I'm not, apparently. I mean, it looks like it's built as a multiplayer game. I'm not 100% sure. Like, yeah, PvP. So we're doing like this very long training to teach us how to play the game, because they don't want us to play against other players before we know how to play the game. But it feels like there's a lot of complexity here for beginners usually only worry about the hits to the head, but as you might have noticed, the punches to the body also sting. Body shots really drain the opponent's stamina. The more you land hits to the body, the more they will hurt. Now it's your turn. Try to hit me with the same combination. Okay. It's telling me to mimic the combination. I'm not invested enough to remember what happened in the last round. So you're basically asking me to remember what the last set of moves was. I'm really not at this stage in the game like memorizing what happened previously. It's expecting a lot from players to like memorize what the last, and it's because I can't see it, right? It's just cards with text on with an illustration. There are no fighters here. Normally what happens is your moves are an abstraction, right? Like strike is an abstraction. You just see a little sword or a little fist, and then the characters give you the context of what's happening. They've tried to put all of the artwork and all of the storytelling into the cards. I'm not sure it works because it just feels like there's no context for me to read from turn to turn. So the situation that I'm responding to with my cards is basically just the status of these bars and my memory of what happened in the last turn. Once you get the opponent into a blocking rhythm, it will be even easier to surprise them with a feint. I think we should review what you've learnt so far with a friendly sparring match with Chris. You're both fairly new to the sport. Be careful. Okay, cool. let me play a proper match and stop telling me what to do every single turn. Attack. Play an attack card from your hand or end exchange. Both players draw cards. Opponent gets initiative. Reset energy costs. Okay, now we've got normal amounts of health. We've upped the stakes a little bit. Now I can kind of concentrate on the game and feel like I care about the outcome because I'm not looking at those 100-point health bars that we had for so long in the tutorial. If played as full power, lose combo. Right, we've got 2 hook to the heads, and 2 hook to the bodies. Okay, we're gonna go for a hook to the body. We will do it as a feint to start off with. I feint. I continue to resolution. Gonna hit him in the head now. Full power hit to the head after matching the feint because he's off rhythm. Blocking the body. I'm gonna boof him in the head at full power. Wonderful. And one more. Let's go down into the body with a normal hit. And then I'll end the exchange. Draw some more cards. I'm going to do a blind counter and go for a panic turtle and defend my head. He's hitting me in the body. I've blocked wrong. Again, 50-50 chance to get it wrong. It's just flipping a coin. Right. We're going to see what he's doing. Hook to the head. Okay, we're going to do a panic turtle. Block some of that. Fell for a feint. Okay, we're going to attack. We'll do a feint. We'll do a feint body shot. Feels slightly more engaged now that I'm actually playing it rather than sitting through an incredibly lengthy explanation of like 3 game mechanics. Right, pop him in the head. And one more. Another one in the head. Let's just go for full power. Just like going in with the haymakers. I think this is enough for today. Oh. Exit game. This menu. This HTML5 ass menu. Stopping the opponent's momentum can be hard if you just block attacks. That is why you should sometimes try to answer their attacks with a counter-attack. Try hitting me with the same combination as last time. Oh, please stop expecting me to remember what you mean when you say last time. I'm just playing cards randomly now. I'm completely disinvested from this. I am annoyed, yeah. It's just, like... The theme was always going to be a hard sell for me. But I think there's a thing that's happening where the theme is lining up with... this kind of... It is like a sports simulator kind of approach to things, where it's like, we're going to simulate all of this stuff that big fans of the sport would understand. But we're mainly going to do that through loads and loads of text. So to be honest, even if we hadn't had the lengthy tutorial, and I just came into this game with an immediate understanding of how it worked, everything in this game is represented through the cards and lots of text and the bars. And there's basically nothing different on the screen between turns for you to respond to, right? And all of these games are like a matchup between the tools that you have available and the context you're in, right? In an action game, it's like, here are the action mechanics that the player can carry out. Here's the level that I'm in, or here's the encounter I'm in. In a traditional digital deck builder, it's like, here are my cards and the things I can do, and maybe some permanent stuff like relics. Here is the situation I'm in. There is an opponent here. They do this. When this happens, they do this. When this happens, they do this. Here it is literally just like the whole game is the cards I have in hand, which are like individually quite complex, but very limited in terms of like how I can determine what I've got. And then the situation I'm responding to doesn't have any visual variation, because it's not like we can see the other boxer there. You know, this would have worked quite well as a first person, you know, like old first person boxing games, with an illustration of the other boxer there, and maybe some stuff to tell us what their tells were and everything. But all of the stuff that should be about reacting, like predicting what they're doing, is just a coin flip, which is so... like, you've put a lot of effort into trying to simulate certain parts of the sport, and then a lot of it is just left down to coin flips. And it's like, why am I reading all of this information about what the different moves do and processing all of these different numbers and different types of cards if so much of the game is going to be about a 50-50 coin flip? Choosing the right time for counters is essential. Okay, you know the basics of punching. Next, we could try adding a leg kick into the mix. It's important to remember that legs are also fair game in MMA. A good leg kick stings for a long time. Let me show you. I don't have any way to block the leg, so I'm just going to do a body block. So we've got the leg symbol on here now as well. Oh no! You kicked me in the leg! Even though I held back quite a bit, I bet you can feel that after a while. In fact, it is a good idea to try avoiding leg kicks altogether. I'll kick you again, but this time move your leg out of the way. Okay, we've got a new card which is to avoid leg kicks, so we're going to play that blindly because we know that he's going to do that anyway. In this case we know because it's part of the tutorial. So I just assume that. And it seems like the more... So we had two body areas before. We had the head and the body. So if we did want to play a defensive card, it was a split between 50. Now it's a 33.3% recurring chance to get the right thing. I just don't understand where we're supposed to get the information from that allows us to make any predictions in this game. You know, occasionally the coach has referred to what just happened, or copy the thing that we just did, and it kind of implies that the game is expecting me to remember things which aren't like recorded in a log or anything like that. And yeah, I don't know. You might think that's an interesting test to give people of that, you know, what happened 2 minutes ago, but I don't think that's an interesting skill to test people on. Lots of this tutorial is just like, play the only card available, or countering an attack that you can't quite identify is difficult, but it also might make your opponents too comfortable using full power with their long-range attacks, which you can punish with counters. Okay. Counters deal twice as much damage when opponent is attacking with full power. Counter against a full power attack will also stun the opponent. Next turn can only play instant and defend cards. Defense can... Yeah. Kind of said it might work better if you could see the fighters and they change stance. I totally agree, but it's one of those... It's one of those pieces of feedback where it kind of feels a little bit like if they were willing to do that, they would have done it already, you know? Sometimes you can like look at a game in the abstract and you can say, oh, this would be better if blah, blah, blah. But you can kind of already tell that they wouldn't be willing to make that change. In an MMC, a turn consists of one attack card and one defense card. An exchange can contain several turns and goes on until an initiator chooses to pass their turn instead of attacking. I think the issue... that there are two sort of issues that are like top level abstract issues. One is that I don't have all of the information I think I need to be able to have to judge certain things. Because even if it was like, you know, I can't remember what these things are, but like, say the game is trying to get me to guess whether to block the head, body, or leg, right? Even just being given some sort of odds of what chance there is that they'll go for each of the things would give me some information to act on. But there's just no information apart from like some obscure hidden pattern that has only been referred to by the coach in words rather than anything I can see on the screen. There's that problem, which is just like, there is information I need to make decisions in this game which just does not exist in the game. And then the other problem is just like, what is the medium for all of the information in the game? And so much of it is text. Multiplayer is unlocked after sparring with Steve. I feel like this is meant to be a multiplayer dueling game. And it's relatively complex and they just make you go through so much training before you can play. And yeah, I don't know. I think the most generous I can be about this game is just to say, hey, if you're watching this and you are into MMA, go and join their playtest and go and play it and see what you think about it, because this is so strongly a sports simulation game that doesn't really have anything to offer someone who isn't very into the sport. And if you are very into MMA and you understand what this is modeling, then you might like it. But for just like a random person who doesn't really follow MMA to play this and enjoy it, it's like asking someone to do that with like Football Manager or something. There's such a specific type of thinking that you need to be interested in doing to enjoy a sports managing game. And this is not managing, but it's in that same sort of mode of like, it's a game about a sport, but it's not the physical action bit of doing the sport, it's thinking about the strategy of the sport. For me, I can't see enough early on in this tutorial of like what decisions I'm supposed to be making, because so many of them feel like blind guessing. And it may be that the model that you've built here of like how the sport works, that there's some like background information that someone that follows the sport might have that makes this game feel more engaging. But for me, it just felt like I may as well be sitting at the desk flicking a coin. And the thing that I find jarring about that is that the game is so overloaded with like special cards with special descriptions on and stuff like that. And I think I would be more open to playing a game where most of the decisions were a 50% gamble if it was way simpler and it wasn't presenting itself as this deep simulation with loads and loads of textual explanations of how things work. But there's a mismatch there for me where the level of perceived complexity that comes from the cards and the interface is very, very high. And then the level of like decision, like meaningfulness feels very, very low, right? It's like, yeah, I find that mismatch really, really jarring and sort of uninteresting. You know, I have to read so much information, and all of that information, like what I can do with it, with my mind and my decisions, where I click and everything, just funnels down to these decisions that are mostly just a flick of a coin. And that doesn't really work for me, you know. I think you can make a game like that. I think anyone who was here when we played Fame or Folly, that's blackjack based, right? But you're drawing, and you're trying not to go bust. And the thing is, because the emphasis in that game is in building the deck rather than piloting the deck, what you're drawing from each of those micro decisions, whether to hit or stick, is changing the feel of the game, because it's an engine builder. This isn't an engine builder. This is like purely piloting your deck of cards. But yeah, the decisions just all feel like they may as well just be a coin toss. And I don't know whether that is my lack of understanding of the thing that you're simulating. But at the same time, you sent it into a generalist channel that is not a sports channel about MMA games. So that's going to be my response to it. It's going to be lots of other people's response to it as well. I think there could be a potential audience for this in people that really, really love MMA and maybe can interact with this game in a different way than you intended, but it's not got anything for anyone else. And you know, like I said to Connor in the chat, it's like you could say, oh, this would be better if we could see the opponent and they had little buffs and debuffs and blah blah blah, but it feels like it's been deliberately built in a way to avoid doing that and to avoid like bodily animations of humans and stuff like that as well. So there's not much point in us kind of like blue sky thinking about what would be the better version of this game, because it already feels like it's designed around that constraint of trying to do all of the representation through the cards and not through showing the actual fight. Okay, we're going to check out Race to Ruler next, which was one that I had scheduled before, and for whatever reason I couldn't access. Kevin in the chat said, are today's games Patreon projects? That one wasn't. The next two are. So the next two games are from Patreon supporters who have submitted them in the last couple of weeks. So what we used to do is every 2 weeks I did a stream that was just Patreon's games, but they ended up kind of just random and not themed in any way. So what I'm doing now is patrons wait a little bit longer for that game to get streamed, but when it does, it gets put in a themed stream. So it's all kind of card games today. It's Race to Ruler. I'm not sure that title really scans or hits for me very well, but also it's probably not that important. There was a ruler without equal, and with a thought. In this expansive empire, there is no question who rules. But what if there was? The ruler was handed the power he has. He was born into it. But what if whoever was next had to earn it? He summons the beings of the capital for an announcement. I am one of strength, of leadership. But I am looking for another of greater strength, of greater leadership. That being must prove themselves by besting me to become my successor. Okay, cool. There's a lot of lines of dialogue for a very relatively simple setup here. Okay, so we're doing like a grand tournament. We've had a succession-based empire, and now the emperor is just like, nah, we're changing the deal. Whoever can beat me up gets to be the new king. The thing that's good here as a theme is it's setting us up for a particular game structure, right? We know from the title and we know from the intro that we are going to be doing a sort of challenge tower type thing. And there's a good chance that it's always going to be the same end boss as well, in terms of like how that's presented. Ideally, it's not. Ideally, there'll be a bit more range to it, but I think it's good to set expectations with the story a little bit. Yeah, I think the reason the title doesn't scan for me is just because you can race to rule or you can race to the ruler, but race to ruler doesn't make grammatical sense. And I think it's okay to have titles that don't make grammatical sense if it sounds really cool. You know, it's a classic kind of anime convention to have absolute nonsense titles, but that has to kind of sound pretty cool. And race to ruler doesn't quite scan for me, although, you know, you've got the alliteration in there, so it's not a terrible title. Yeah, I think the intro needs a bit of a rewrite. Probably needs a few sentences less, and some of the language is a bit clumsy. One thing to note about this text is massive, and when you're looking at a big screen, it's like, this should be in a much smaller box. Because you may think you're being helpful by making the text bigger, but actually when you're quite close to a big screen, this is harder to read than if the text was located in the kind of middle third of the screen. Interrupting the walk of the ruler? Fine, let me teach you a thing or two. This is your health. It goes to 0, you lose. Above is enemy health. It goes to 0, you win. That button is the end turn button. You know, you must also click it to start the battle. Click it now. Okay. At the start of your turn, you draw 5 cards. Each card in your hand, which consists entirely of unit cards, can be played by clicking on it. By playing a card in your hand, it is summoned to the leftmost available zone. You cannot summon units while your zones are full. Go ahead and summon some units. Yeah, Emil, I totally agree with that. So Emil was saying, I feel like the entire intro could be summed up with one sentence and then add the stuff to the lore later once the player gets invested. Yeah, I think most of the time if you're... I understand why you've done it, because there's a lot of work that's gone into that intro. There's a lot of sort of like cool graphics and animation and stuff. But people aren't going to care until they decided whether or not they like a game, especially in a genre like this that is so mechanically oriented. And actually, this is something I said to the developer of Carnholt, which is the game that's coming up next. Carnholt has some quite long dialogue sequences in where it's actually just like, we're at a shop, you know, the character accepts souls or something, and they give... I don't need to hear like 5 lines of dialogue from them. And if you do have story and thematic content in one of these games that's very, very focused on the tactical element and not the story element, if you're going to have it in there, it's much better to treat it as a reward that comes from like grinding the game or hitting a certain point in the game, so that players see it once they've decided that they care about the game, rather than using it at the start to try and make players care about the game, because people that play card games are generally not going to be like, oh cool, a story intro. It's not going to motivate people most of the time. So I think every element of your game is like a test or a reward or some, you know, could fall into those categories. And a like passive chunk of story at the beginning is a waste of something that could be a reward later on in the game instead. Mercenaries. Okay, we're going to put some mercenaries down. So far, so Hearthstone. There's some good UX stuff going on here. Each unit has attack and life. When their life gets to 0, they die. Okay. However, if there's no unit present within that zone, the damage is dealt directly to you. During the end of your turn, each unit on the field attacks and your hand is shuffled. Go ahead and end your turn by clicking the button or pressing space. So I think we're basically doing a kind of Hearthstone Battlefields type auto battler, which is similar to the game Become the Moon. I think the last kind of indie one of these I played was Become the Moon, which was very, very good. The difference that was, I mean, the thing that Become the Moon had going for it is it had a very approachable art style, and I think this has a very approachable art style, but it also had like quite interesting theming where it's like, oh, there's a deck of birds and there's a deck of wizards, and it had it kind of felt a bit more indie. I think that would be the way that I would say it, and I'm not just saying that because it's got a quirky art style, but there's something about the theming of this that makes it feel slightly unusual and not just like someone trying to do very kind of Blizzard middle of the road fantasy. Whereas I think one of the things I'm immediately getting with Race to Ruler is everything here feels very like we've got Hearthstone at home, and that's difficult, especially when it then raises the question, well, Hearthstone Battlegrounds is free, so why would I play a simpler version of that for money? You know, if it's kind of got a similar art style and it's pushing loads of things in the same direction. I think that there's lots of little problems that arise from the presentation style of this. It feels like it's trying to ape a Blizzard style, and that means it might be missing out on some personality or some opportunities to have its own personality. I think saying it doesn't have personality isn't fair, but it feels very middle of the road vanilla fantasy at the moment. By clicking a card on the field, you have it charge at the enemy. Charging is when a unit attacks prematurely but dies after the act. Have a unit charge by clicking on any one of them on the field. Okay. Charge. Each time a unit dies, you get a soul. We'll talk about what they're used for later. For now, end your turn by kicking the... Yeah, don't tell me about stuff later on. Just give me the soul, then later on tell me every time a unit died they got a soul. Don't front load information like that in a tutorial. Penguin Big Sword, I like that guy. Yeah, I'm appreciating the slightly more goofy cards. See that glowing red deck over there? That is your reserve. Your reserve contains powerful units that require souls to summon, and it can be accessed at any time. Summon that reserve unit you have the souls for by clicking on the reserve deck and selecting the unit. Okay. Standard Bearer. Beer. From now, all sword game 1. Okay. Don't know what that means. Reserve units provide effects that usually last the remainder of the battle, i.e. from now on, so it's good to get them out early. Units may have effects when they are summoned. Okay, that's summoned. Is that... It's not a beer, it's a... I'm not sure what that's... It's supposed to be a portal, maybe? When they're hurt and when they die and at turn's end. Okay, that's a reasonably legible set of symbols. Some units may deal something which is effect damage. Okay. Some... I don't know what's going on with these screenshots here. Some enemies may have abilities that will hurt your units. Make sure to read them. You can hold this button or hold middle mouse button to access the icon glossary. In the top left are keepsakes. Yeah, again, you're front loading stuff. Don't tell me about this until it's relevant. It is explaining some obvious stuff. Yeah, it's explaining some obvious stuff, and it's also just telling us stuff way ahead of time. And it's very, very difficult to read because the text goes horizontally so far across the screen. All on field and in hand, game to attack. Cool, that's buffing everyone. Can I play Penguin Big Sword over here? He attacks and draws on the first turn. And now we're going to charge with the Standard Bearer because by killing him I free up another space. And we'll put the knockoff Pandaren there. End the turn. Zabir, it doesn't have a handle though. Bleeding Damsel. When hurt, all others on the field gain attack damage. That's cool. Okay. Let's kamikaze our panda. Put her on the board. Oh, okay. I can't see how much damage they're going to deal. Just kind of clicking randomly now. But hey, at least I'm getting to do stuff. The developers of the previous game, take note. I'm in the tutorial and I'm doing stuff. I'm actually playing the game. I'm not reading 200 words of explanation and then clicking on something which isn't actually a decision. Don't chop me, bro. Now that you know how to lead an army, face me in the capital and claim the title of ruler. Yeah, I don't have a sense of like how much damage is incoming on my units when they attack. Depart. A lovely chest. Stampede Sigil. Second charge each turn, all units in hand deal damage. One more rare unit shows up at pubs. I'm going to go for the Stampede Sigil. Second charge each turn. So charging is actively clicking on my units to get them to attack. All units in hand deal 4 attacks. So that's more valuable if I've got more units in my hand. Now, I love that we have a whole kind of penguin suit. That's fun. I'm going to go for a soul capsule because that sounds cool. Fight! Humungunk. Yeah, there's an interesting thing here. It's like so many of the things that have been explained in the tutorial are very standard card game things, like the way that attack and health works. You do have to like work out how to balance that. Like, do you want to make a game for someone that has never played a card game before? In which case you might alienate the people that do already know how to play most of these mechanics. So I don't think there's a easy right answer there. It's a bit of a balancing act. Killed him. That was easy. I think you're going to have to do something to optimize these load times, though, because that combat was very snappy and quick, and that's great if we can get out of it and into the next part of the game very quickly, but that could potentially be a problem. Right, 3 warriors, reserve warriors, trainer, scattered coins. I'm not really sure what's going on here. We can do that, or we can do that. Is this supposed to be a map? Jolly and Arsonist. All on field take 1 damage, deal 15. We're going to go with the Bleeding Damsel. I like that kind of revenge tank type effect. Who are you? I don't understand what this screen does, mate. You've got an information thing up here. It doesn't explain what you do. You're probably going to let me upgrade one of these? Yeah, no confirmation step, no explanation of what's happening. Was I getting rid of that to turn it into this? Not sure. From now, charged... Oh, he's giving me one of those soul cards, those special red cards. Stampede. Fine. Twin Blade Fighter. So tired. I keep only sleeping like 4 to 6 hours. because of summer. And some annoying health stuff. There are a lot of new cards back to back, yeah. Although one of those things is getting rid of a card, I think. Yeah, I don't have any sense of how much they're going to hurt me when I attack them. Although charge... Oh no, charge always kills my unit, doesn't it? That's how charge works. You're basically exploding them. I defeated one army. Okay, we're going to start again? Is that the idea? So these are the different bosses to face against. So that's like the different kind of challenge tower stuff. Yeah, Carl, it's nothing really serious. It's just ongoing stuff that's very physically irritating, if that makes sense. It's not like a... You know... something that's more painful than harmful. But it does make it difficult to sleep. Each summon, we've got a 1/6 chance it deals extra damage. Sure, let's go with that. All units in hand deal damage when this dies. That's kind of fun, I guess. The Wonky Donkey Club. Right, we want to play that as soon as possible because we want there to be as many units in hand as possible to do that. That was cool. That was fun to trigger that. Yeah, take that, Scarecrow. Yeah, I do feel like a lot of the text and UI is very stretched out to try and take up as much of the screen as possible. It's got that kind of, I'm developing on a laptop that's kind of small, and that makes me think that my game needs everything to be bigger than it needs to be kind of vibe. Okay. Treasured keepsake, please. Okay, I see. Okay, I think this is how this works. We go left or right and we get all of those things. Aura Shaman, all units in hand gain an extra health. Each charge deal... or reserve cost. Let's go with the Aura Shaman. Golden Clover, double chance of getting rares in drafts, doesn't stack. Okay, cool. Give me your rares. Getting some gold. All on field and in hand gain an attack when the flag bearer is summoned. There's a lot of stacked drafting in one go. I feel like they're kind of doing the monster train thing of like between combat you do multiple things to upgrade your deck or upgrade your engine or whatever you want to call it. Feels like it might go a little bit too far. Right, we're going to give our units in hand an extra life at the end of the turn. And we're going to put a Loyal Knight down, and then we're going to just end the turn. See what happens. Now we're going to kamikaze this Loyal Knight because he's only got 2 health anyway. Snow Slinger down. Yeah, that is an interesting thought. Just like the charge is the charge is more fun to do in terms of tactility, so it might kind of tempt you into doing it when you shouldn't. I feel like the attack button should be like a war horn. So you can click on them and have them individually attack, or you go and then they all attack on their own. I think that might be a nice trade-off in terms of the UX of those things and how appealing they are. Effects that occur on damage occur twice more. That's very cool. But I don't think I have anything in my deck that does that. So that would synergize with the bleeding damsel or whatever she was called. We're going to go for the squirrel. Stampede Sigil, second charge each turn, all units in hand deal 4. Drawn unit not drawn during step, it gains 2 attack. We've got a, that's kind of what our squirrel does as well. So we want draw abilities, I guess. Let's go for the butterfly. I'm going for all the nice naturey stuff this time. I think when you've got a game that is based around collectibles, whether it is loot or characters, you want to have enough stuff that you can have like aesthetic hints of which things go together. You know, like the elves synergize because they're elves, and that allows like theme-based players to go, oh, I'm just going to collect all the elves, but then just accidentally end up with a synergy. And I would say in engine building games where you're collecting characters or you're putting together an engine out of loot or whatever, you want some of that kind of obvious synergy that is just linked to the theme. Because when I want a no-brainer game like this, I will just go, oh, I'll be all of the nature stuff and druids or whatever, and hopefully that will just work out. And you obviously want some stuff that requires a little bit more thought as well. You don't want it to all be like that, where it just doesn't matter. But making sure that there's a big chunk of the game where the synergies are just obvious because of the theme is probably a good idea, you know? I saw a mud crab the other day. Hideous things. See, maybe this is where you use your intro animations, is as a masking loading screen. Just cut it up into like 12 parts and show a little bit every time you hit that loading problem, because your game is so snappy, it's very quick to like pass through a round of combat, and then that's like a fifth of the length of the combat waiting for the next bit. I'm gonna have a lovely flower. Hello! It's that man that I don't know what he does. So last time did he turn my loyal, did he upgrade the card that I gave him last time, or did he get rid of it? I don't know. I don't understand this screen because it doesn't tell us what we're doing. Do something with my squirrel, please. Hello. Oh, we're buying stuff with gold now. Okay. Give me a goat. Give me another shaman. Give me a gnome armorer. Let's go. Ah, yes. Elf Ryu. Hadouken. Rightmost in hand gains 3. Let's do that. And do the shield bearer. That guy's doing some sort of automatic attack. I'm not sure why. The spider web on his right is what he's doing. Ah, yeah, that's... Units... When units summon to a zone with 0 damage, deal 3 to that. Ah, okay. These are where it's attacking. It's going to do 3 here, 0 here. It does its web attack to whichever doesn't have... Okay, got it. Yeah, I think what this game needs is lots of little UX tweaks to like how things show up in the UI. I think the actual damage and attacking and stuff could be a little bit clearer. I kind of forgot that those red numbers were the incoming damage in each lane. I quite like the game. I like how it works. It feels like the sort of thing that you can play in a relatively no-brain way, which is, you know, that sounds bad, but I played a lot of Hearthstone Battlegrounds. I played a lot of Dota Underlords as well. Played a lot of like the big kind of auto battler type things. And this feels like a nice balance of like you don't have to think too hard in the individual piloting. There's a bit there to think about. You know, obviously I lost the first time, so it is losable. I keep forgetting to use the soul summon, so there's just a lot of things that feel like... I think because the art is so glossy and there's lots of things like vying for our attention, sometimes the stuff that needs to happen to make the UI go, hey, look over here, is just a little bit under the standard of the rest of the game, you know? If you think about Hearthstone, there are loads of little tells in Hearthstone to point out to you when a particular thing is active already. You know, when you can't play any more of your cards, the color of the next round button changes. In Hearthstone, when you've got a card with a condition, like if this is the rightmost card in your hand, do this, or if you have 3 of these on the field, do this. It goes from being green border to show that you can afford to play it to having a yellow border to just to have like a special highlight to say, hey, the special condition of this card is met. There's like a layer of UX thinking with this game that is not quite there with that. When this is hurt, it deals 6 damage. So we're going to put that there. This hurts everything when it's spawned. So let's do that. That dealt like 12 damage because it got hurt by the goat twice. What I should have done really is played the shaman first to like beef this up. So you can kind of see some synergies starting to form from like these kind of triggered on damage effects that we've got. This is my life as well. It doesn't really look like life. Okay. Right, he can be sacrificed because he doesn't do anything else now. Cool enemy design, enemy concepts here. Let's beef up the stuff in my hand. Get the knight down so we've got a bit more damage on the board. Okay, cool. I'm going to move on to Carnholt now. I think this is pretty solid. There's lots of stuff here to like. You got to do something about these loading times or find an interesting way to mask them, because the combat is very snappy and quick, and that makes the long loading time stand out even worse. There's lots and lots of things you can do to improve the UI. Even just like the size of the text kind of makes it feel a little bit, I think, for want of a better word, tacky. It's a little bit kind of makes it look a little bit childish, like you're making all the text as large as possible because you're worried that people won't be able to read it. Just sort of dial some of those things in a little bit, and then make sure that when there are things in the game that players keep missing, like, oh, forgetting that I can spend souls to summon my special red guys, those kind of things, make sure there's something that changes to go, hey, remember this mechanic's here, we've done a highlight. Maybe that's already in there, but I didn't notice, and I did notice that I was missing the what's it called? I was missing some opportunities because I forgot about the mechanics because I wasn't using them very often. Crankenhouse, yes, that's the name that we are releasing our game under, studio-wise. Right. We're going to give this one half an hour. If I get really into this, I might schedule another thing for it because I like this game. What's happened though? Yeah, there was a highlight. Okay. New run, please. What's going on? I can ding the things on your head, but I can't play the game. Is the dev in the chat today on this one? Because I think we've got a bug, and I'm not sure why. I don't think I've got a local save of this game or anything like that, but that could be the problem because I played it a couple of months ago. If I go to resume, we get this kind of broken map version. Let me go back and make sure that I've unzipped it properly and we're not like running out of a... No, it is unzipped. I'll download the other file because there's two files on the itch. Give me a second. Lots of red. There are two different downloads, so let me download the other build. Ah, that was the 1st of the 7th. This is the 9th of the 7th. So, yeah, maybe this is going to work. Let me go back. Delete that one. Give me a sec. I've clicked download too many times. Yeah, I don't know where the app data will be, but also there were 2 builds up on the itch, and one was from the 1st to the 7th, and the other one was from the 9th to the 7th. So maybe I just had the wrong build. Let's try that first. I really liked this one before. My main beef with it was some of the card art looking quite similar, which kind of comes out of one of the strengths of the game, which is that it's all undead animals, which is quite a good way to limit the scope of a kind of collectibles-based game if you're making an indie. Because as soon as you go like general fantasy and you're collecting cards or something, it's like, well, people are going to expect to be able to collect all of this different stuff. Whereas if you go, it's undead animals, that narrows the scope of content down quite a bit. So I really liked that. And then the other thing I had an issue with was just like there were shops where the character said like 10 lines of dialogue at you, and you're kind of clicking through it trying to get to the decision, and you kind of can then accidentally click the wrong thing. Press reset. Oops. Oh, here we go. It was a save problem, I think, because resetting my progression was fine. I think what we're going to do, actually, let's do unlock everything and play a different deck, because I've played a little bit as the first character. So this is what we played as before. We've got Menurak, who's quite cute. A little kind of antler fox. For every 3 mana or 3 corpses you spend, Menurak gains 1 attack shard and 1 armor. We've got Sharek, Mother of Bones. So we've got an easy character, medium, easy. Legacy Incarnate. Whenever another ally dies, Nehir inherits its buffs. That sounds fun. Whenever Nadra or one of your spells kills a creature, Nadra gains 2 infusion. Whenever an ally consumes its infusion, it gains 1 attack shard. Raiden the Traveler. He gains attack by moving around. Whenever R2R deals damage, gather the Knight X, where X is the damage dealt. Allies can feast on ruin. I love how nonsensical all of these things are if you read them out of context. Ashkar can attack enemies up to 3 tiles away. When an enemy moves into Ashkar's attack range, Ashkar strikes it. Okay, I'm going to go completely on vibes and go for the hyena, because I like hyenas. They're one of my favourite animals. Okay. We'll go here to start off with, so we can kind of go at either direction. Press the button to continue. Yep. Yeah, I loosely remember how this works. So we play stuff onto the grid, we can play stuff around our own units, and then we're like gradually moving around the board as well. So we rend you to get you away from our... This is our commander. And then you've got 2 resources. You've got mana, and then you've got corpses. And corpses can be picked up from the board, which gives you a reason to like move around, which is quite cool. So I would have to move Ashkar over there to pick up that corpse, right? And then I've got 1 corpse and 3 mana, so I want to kind of create a shield for myself. So we will put a Dreadnought down there, because that's got lots of health, and that will attract all the enemies that are going to come and bomb it. And I can still do spells with the rest of my mana. So spells only cost mana, summoning units costs mana and corpses, and you have to move around the board to attack with your units and to pick up corpses as a resource. So it's quite kind of abstract in terms of like, it's a grid-based game. But they're doing a lot to make use of the grid in interesting ways. Oh yeah, the art is very, very solid because the lead dev is a Magic the Gathering artist, and this is like... my understanding is a bunch of it is stuff from their back catalogue, and they're just like, hey, I'm going to make a game out of that. Yeah, I agree with that. But Bernard in the chat said it's still a little bit difficult to tell spells from units, right? Yeah, and if we kind of look at it carefully, we can tell what the difference is, right? A spell card has these blue mana crystals around and has this kind of icy blue effect along the top. But it's basically done on the areas where you're least likely to know the difference, because I remember reading up about this, like our brain reads shape as a differentiator first. It's like the biggest difference if something's a circle versus a square, and then it reads color, and then it will get into more detailed things like text and stuff like that. And there's a reason why in Hearthstone they have like the units are in a oval shape that becomes the thing on the board, and the spells are a different shaped frame and everything that they're in. So I think even just like displaying these art pieces so they look more like a square tile, like the thing that goes, notice the difference. Okay, Dreadnought is up there. Ashkar is safe down here. He can attack from far away. That's his whole deal, so we don't need to move up close to attack with them, which is cool. Just close this debug thing. Put a cheapy little sentinel down there. Boof that with the sentinel. Deal 1 damage to an ally, give 4 armor to a creature. So I'm going to hurt my commander to give armor to my Dreadnought so it can keep... Yeah, I think my internet's being a bit poopy today, unfortunately. New Dreadnought there between my leader and them. It's very fast. I was kind of expecting the units to have like a Magic the Gathering summoning sickness where they couldn't attack straight away, but they can. Omen. This creature feeds on all other allies, dealing 1 damage to each. It then gains attack shards and life shards equal to the damage dealt this way. That's cool. We can get like a really powered up, what's it called? It's called a Dusk Beast, but it's a sort of harpy gargoyle type thing. Sacrifice a card. Let's get rid of one of our Dreadnoughts, and we're going to get one of these instead. So we can get an Archmage. I'm going to just swap around like that if we're getting delay on the sound. We can get an Archmage or a Cleaver or a Relentless Packmate. I'm going to go for the Archmage because it's got more health, and I've literally just picked a card that drains health from everything else. So we're trying to synergize around that, I guess. We don't need to rest yet because we've only lost 1 health. So let's go the Artifact route. I'd be tempted to just put more blue on the magic cards and like make the whole of this background bit like pale blue or something. We're going to combine one of these with one of these. So we've got Rage Equip. In Rage, gain 1 attack shard. Corpse Bag. When equipped creature enters, digs a number of corpses equal to its mana cost. Let's give that to the Archmage. So we're making it so that when the Archmage spawns, it gets 2 corpses because it costs 2 mana. That seems good. I love this tactile gold resource over here. It's so nice. Very cool. Let's do the elite. Let's try and do as many elites as we can. Oh, we got the shop first. We greet you, traveler. We are togetherness. We are pleased to meet you. Okay. this is kind of what I was saying about just like a little bit too much story to get to the decision. Whenever your creatures move 10 tiles, create a protection ward in hand. I can't afford any of these. Where's the bit that... oh, I've got 76. Feels a bit strange to not have this number where we can see our actual coins. Oh, it's so vibey, being able to flick your coins around. Okay. Right, we are looking for... this guy makes my spells have cleave. I've already got one of these. Cleave deals the damage of the spell to adjacent enemies. So I should be picking more direct damage spells. So we're going to go for mediate. Oh no, that doesn't do damage. Okay. There's no re-roll over here? Don't think there is a re-roll. Okay, I'm going to use my gold to remove one of my little basic cards then, I think. Yeah, the coins are so cool. It reminds me of the world of Death Howl as well, which is a very different art style for a game, but it's got similar kind of vibes of just like grim dark, you know, black metal Norse type stuff. Avatar of Rot. These guys have got loads of health. Okay. I'm going to put the Dreadnought in the way of our boss. We're going to take 1 health from here to give armor to our Dreadnought. And I've got 1 mana left, so I'll put a Sentinel just over here in the middle of the board. Dreadnought, go there, pick that corpse up. My spells have cleave, but that's only useful if I can get them to go together. Go there and attack there. Okay, this guy gets boosted by how... he does 1 damage to all of my units when he enters and then gets that much extra attack and life. So I really need to like summon as many characters as possible before I try and do that though. So summon this guy, boof them with it. Oh, and I have to pick up the corpses that he kind of summoned. I don't immediately get them. I just cleaved my own Dreadnought because my upgrade to my damage from the Archmage went in a cross around there, which is bad, but I'm glad that that exists as a mechanic. That's cool. Okay, do 1 damage to them, put some armor on the Dreadnought, let the Dreadnought keep tanking there in the middle. Right, move Ashkar back, use his ranged attack. Put a Dreadnought in the middle again. Use the Dreadnought to pick up a corpse. And then we're going to do our Dusk Beast, who is going to get a bonus of 3/3 because we've got 3 other units on the board and he's eating them to get... and he's got a ranged attack as well. That's cool. Once a turn, you can pay 3 corpses to use your invocation and draw a card. It's like extra ability. There's not much point though because I don't have the mana to play anything. So I'm just gonna bring the sound level down a bit. I didn't realize it was so high for this. This game is doing... I mean, besides just looking gorgeous, one of the things this game does incredibly well is that the basic interactions that you do are incredibly simple. Like the playing cards, attacking, moving and stuff is very, very simple. And that means that you can focus on the complexity being in the variations of the spells and units, rather than you know, it being hard to just understand how you do something on the board. Right, now we're going to use corpses to draw. We'll put an Archmage down. Oof. They've got us. Oh. Right. I don't have much. I need to stop streaming in about 15, but we're going to try and do one more run. Okay, different character this time. Who have we got? Testing deck, not to be play tested. That's funny. We can be a big dragon. Omen, and whenever you use your invocation. I'm not sure what omen means. Okay, we're going to do this. So, near here, the white wolf thing, all of the buffs from your characters that die go onto your boss. So you're like gradually building up your boss throughout the matchup, which sounds kind of fun. But we're going to need some sort of healing abilities because we're going to be using our... It's called a companion, actually, I think, the boss character. Omen is triggered when a creature enters the battlefield. Okay. Giving armor to my main guy this time. Do it with both of them. Nice. Bone Ward, give an ally 6 armor, draw a card. That's quite cool with my current skill, because I can put that on a character and then the 6 armor will transfer, because that's a buff, right? Oh, I don't know if it is actually. I'll try it anyway. Evil Chicken of Doom. Why are you showing me your hand? What's going on? Nice. That draws a card when you summon it. That seems pretty useful. Singularity. Hello, Owl. Hey, you. Good to see someone. It's been a long time. I have something for you. Okay. Gains 15 corruption. Choose 4 cards. Duplicate 2 of them chosen randomly. Gain 7 corruption. Give 2 life to 3 cards. When reaching 100 corruption, you will receive a blight. The third blight will be fatal. You've got to kind of push your luck mechanic for getting power-ups, which is interesting. These guys have got really long range, these burbs. That thing to get armor from 1 health on one of your units is really powerful, because a lot of my units in this deck only have 2 health anyway, and taking 1 off them does barely any. It doesn't really cost anything. It's negligible, so it seems to always be a good move. Right, I just need to beat 1 more enemy to Omen. Create Houndmaster's Pact in your hand. Whenever this creature attacks, summon ephemeral copies of all allies sacrificed to his pact to attack alongside him. Okay. Sounds fun. Okay, when this gathers corpses... Well, that's cool. Okay. It gains armor. Let's put that on this, because this is slightly beefier unit in the first place. Right, last combat, and then I need to go and see a lady about an office chair. What's these guys again? Stinky avatars of rot. One thing I'm not sure about is what these symbols on the board mean. These like little... There's these little... These mean something, but I don't know what. Oof. Oof. Hate these guys. Just have to like run away from them. I'm picking up buffs off of my characters dying because that's what my character does this time. But I still don't really want to attack with it because it's quite squishy. I sacrificed that unit and reanimated it, which meant that its +2 damage went over to my main beastie. It's very much one of those situations where I want to keep on playing and it's annoying that I've got something I need to get to. It's just so rewarding. Like, you get a couple of combats that are usually very, very easy. Every time I've hit this one, it's a little bit more of a challenge. Like, someone just said in the chat, the juice on this game is impeccable. And there's just loads of interesting little decisions. There's quite a lot of like weird fantasy jargon that I don't know yet. I don't know what it means to gather the night and stuff like that. But I have also skipped way ahead in the timeline with unlocking stuff. So yeah, we did it. I buffed up my main character so much that they were doing 17 damage, and then that allowed me to like boop them in one like that, which was pretty cool. This guy digs a corpse each time they are damaged, that's quite an interesting ability. When a creature enters the battlefield, give it 1 infusion and 1 attack until the loads and loads and loads and loads of unit variety and relics and stuff, which a game like this really, really needs, because what people are looking for in run-based games most of the time is for the game to have like a different identity with each run, and that's not from, you know, usually a mix of varying the challenges and the tools that you give to the player, but leaning more on the side of giving the player different tools each time. It's probably going to make the game more interesting most of the time, so that's what I usually look for, and that applies to like action games like Binding of Isaac, and it applies to turn-based games like this as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Slightly different time. I hope that made it easier for some people to drop in. I will be moving them around, probably even more over the summer because the kids will be home. So yeah, there will be some that are in the morning GMT time, some that are in the afternoon, some that are in the evening. Just, you know, look at the YouTube channel and you'll see when they're coming up. I do tend to schedule things at least 2 weeks in advance. This one was a little bit last minute, but they'll be moving around, particularly throughout August when the kids are at home. I don't have to do school runs. And patrons, thanks for supporting the channel and for sending your games over. I've played Carnholt twice now, and it's definitely the sort of thing I could sit and play for 2 or 3 hours. Race to Ruler had some good stuff going for it, and some easy wins, I think, in terms of things that could be changed to improve it. Mixed martial cards, the first game that was the one sent in from the indiegameclinic.com form where you can submit your own games. Interesting premise. Felt very much like it was simulating MMA to a point where it's not going to be interesting to most people who don't play MMA. I couldn't really find what the game was without understanding the sport, and I'm not totally sure that even if I was a big fan of the sport, I would have found the decisions in the game interesting, because they seemed quite based on guesswork and chance. But we'll see. I mean, they've got a little kind of multiplayer mode. They've got a Discord community around that. I hope that game is doing well. And if you are a MMA fan, then maybe go and check it out and see if you have a different experience from what I had. But such a long tutorial, so much like explaining stuff and then not really feeling like I'm learning anything, which happens a lot when you've got tutorials that over explain things and don't give you an opportunity to actually practice the skill. Which is weird, because I would think someone that was into martial arts would understand the problem with that teaching approach. But yeah, thanks for joining today. I am back tomorrow with more stuff. See you all soon.